Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 33rd lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this lesson, we will set up our ability to place our building on the map. We'll do so in two ways. First, we'll set up a building so it can be instantly constructed, which will take care of the first option from the table presented in the introduction video for this section. And then we will set it up so the building is prepared to be built. So the ghost sort of preview quality remains on the map, but is not fully constructed. This will be a setup for the other two options, of which we'll focus on the third one in the next video. That said, start up your editor and let's get started. So in our last lesson, we set it up so we hit play, we can spawn in a building, or a preview of a building, we can rotate it, but we can't set it. We can get rid of it so we're not previewing it anymore. What we need to do is pass the information about where the building is, what rotation it's at, and all of that to our construction, to our game, so it actually fully builds in the game. We also need to make sure that it isn't overlapping. So let's take care of that in this episode. And what we're going to do that is we need to go to our, well, we're already in our blueprints folder. We need to go to our player, and we need to go to our player controller. And I already know from having tested this a couple of times, this is my second time recording this particular lesson, that we don't have enough room here. So I'm just going to drag this down there. I'm going to just move it a little bit so it's a little bit neater for my own tastes. This isn't anything important. There we go. We do need the room, however, so that's why I did drag it down here. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that when we come into building mode, because we have building mode active, and we go to do a primary action, so our left click, that we aren't overlapping. Because all that happens when we do the overlap is it changes the mesh. It doesn't say, hey, you can't build here. So we need to tell the system something pretty much equivalent to that of, hey, no, don't build here. So we're going to do a branch. So we're going to just drag up, type in branch, put a reroute in so it's a bit neater looking, especially considering we are going to need a little bit of room here. What's going to be on this branch is we're actually going to get a reference to our construction preview. And if you remember in our construction previews where we had that overlap check, well, we're just going to call that function up. I mean, it's a pure function. We can call it pretty easily. So we're going to do check overlap. There is that function. If it is true, then we don't want to do anything. If it is false, however, then we want it to build. But the thing is, we need to pass that information about what it's building on. So we're going to compile and save everything. To do that, we could create an interface. We could just take all the variables and pass them on over and expose them and all that. There's just a lot of issues with those two options, from overhead to being cluttered and hard to follow. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to use a structure that will take all that information. And let's just go into our structures folder, and we're going to create a new blueprint in here that will be our RTS Construction Drop. Now I know my naming convention isn't beautiful or really good, but it works for this teaching. So we are going to have this first variable, which will be a boolean, as is construction completed. So is construction completed? We want it to default to false. We are going to create a new variable, and in this first variable we need to pass along the type of building that we are building. And remember, we had that information already, and that's our building class. So building class, and this will be of RTS building master BP, and it will be, make sure not to do industrial like I tend to do, and it will be the class reference. Gonna double check it's the right one. It is. I'm not paranoid from having gotten that wrong a couple of times in a row. So now we have the information of, is the building constructed, and is it, what class is it? The next thing we need is to know where it's located. Now we could approach this from two different points of view. We could have 2 pins for the location, or we could have 1 pin for location. Sorry, I shouldn't say for location when I say 2 pins. We want to know where it is and what direction it's facing. So it's location and its rotation. I prefer doing 1 pin, so I'm going to do a transform. I could, and I'm going to make of type transform. I could, however, do this as vector, so location of type vector, and a second pin of rotation of type rotator. But I prefer 1 pin instead of 2. This also gives me the option to play with scale a bit. We need to know what the display mesh we're passing through is. So display mesh. And if you remember from earlier, that is our static mesh. So our static mesh, and that's what we're passing through. We will be adding more stuff to this as we go on, from our resources required to build it to our construction time. We will even have things like max occupancy or max residency or various things depending on what it is. We might even have can attack as a Boolean, so we maybe have a turret or something. Alright, so now that we have this, we need to put information into our structure. We can't just put a structure here and go, hey, find the information magically. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our buildings BP. We're going to go to our preview, and we don't need that. So in our preview, we have all this information. So it makes it really, really simple, actually. All we're going to do is we're going to set our structure. So we're going to create a new function, which will be set construction. Oops, sorry. I help my hands around the home keys. Set construction structure. There we go. And the very first thing I'm going to do in here is I am going to create a new variable that will be my construction struct. And this will be, of course, my type of, RTS Construction Struct. We've done something very similar before. If you don't remember, we did something like this inside of our unit where we create a random set of features. Well, we had that structure. We, set it, and we also then had to break it to set it. So we're going to drag off of here, or not break, we use maker. You can break for certain things. We use makers for this one. We are going to make, and we're going to ignore this is construction complete. We want the building class, which, hey, we have right here, so we can just pin that right in. Our transform, however, is not this empty transform. It's the one we currently have. So we're going to get our location. So right-click, get actor location. So it gets this particular instance of this actor, so this preview's location, which remember is key to where our mouse is, and then we want to know the rotation. So we're going to do get actor rotation, and we're going to put both of these together. We're going to just drag off this top one here, and we're going to do make transform. As you can see, we have even scale already in there for us nicely. If you want to change scale, you can change it here. Make sure you change your scale everywhere where scale comes up. Otherwise, you'll run into issues. We're going to plug that directly into our transform. And what about our display mesh? Well, hey, look, it's right there. Display mesh. It's also put in a spot where I don't like it. There we go. And now we've passed this in. We need to pass this out as well. So we're just going to do off of here a return node. And on this return node, what we're going to have is a reference, or sorry, we're going to pass out the structure, not a reference. We're going to do construction struct, and this of course will be RTS construction struct, and we could just plug this directly into there. As you guys know, I don't like doing that. I like doing it this way. C++ it wouldn't actually matter because literally it's just the name. It's a storage location. That's all it is. It's the name of a storage location. Alright, so that's now passed through. And now we need to get this information into the game. So we're going to do a little bit of a test first. first thing we are going to do is make sure that we're getting this information correctly, and we're going to spawn it in a way that actually achieves the first option on that table from the introduction video to this section. And we're going to go into our player controller to do that. Of course, everything is going to be off the player controller because it's when we do our left click. So let's get our reference to our construction preview. And we now have our construction struct. So we're going to set construction struct. Really? Did I have a typo like that in there? All right, hang on one second. Yes, I do. So give me 1 second. I don't know why I did that. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's do that again. Get construction. Or sorry, set, not get. Set construction structure. There we go. Plug that into the false so we're not overlapping something. And then what we're going to have is we're going to have it spawn onto the map. So we're going to do spawn actor from class. Plug that directly into there. And we're going to actually drag off of here. We're going to break it. We could have split it, but I don't want to have to edit this again. We're just going to delete this in a minute. We have our building class, so we can plug that directly into there. We have our transform. We have our display mesh. Our player controller is a reference to self because we're in the player controller. This doesn't need to look pretty at all because we're just going to delete this in a moment. This is a test to make sure it works. Compile. Hit play. There's our factory. Boom. Hey, there it is. But we have a small problem. And that small problem is, well, we have this preview still here. But hey, it instantly constructed. It's working. It's in the right spot. I didn't change the rotation, so let me just grab another one of these real quick. And let's change the rotation. And there we go. We now have a different rotation to that building. So we know that we can rotate them. So before we delete this, let's get rid of the extra preview. So we're going to do is get this preview, get a reference to it, and we're going to destroy the actor. Remember, we created a function. Oh, sorry, not destroy actor. Whoa, no, don't destroy actor. Destroy preview. Ooh, destroying the actor would cause a little bit of an issue there because what would happen is it would destroy. Where is it? It would destroy this up here. We don't want that to happen. We want this to be persistent, but we don't want the preview mesh itself to be persistent. So if we hit compile and play, factory, boom, and now we don't have one following our mouse. And rotated factory, boom. Let's do a barracks. You really can't see that rotated too well. Training post. Gotta find a room for the stuff. Boom. And our silo. There we go. So everything does spawn in and looks all nice and pretty on our map, hopefully. But this isn't the correct way to do this. Well, I mean, it is if you want to have that instant spawn and you want to do it based on, say, resources. I still wouldn't have it in the player controller. So we're going to delete this for now. We aren't going to delete that, and we're not going to delete this set construction. What we're going to do, however, is compile and save real quick. And we are going to pass this information into a sort of construction manager. Like I said, there's a few ways to handle that, passing that information. You know, we can use an interface, but we still have to get this information properly over, especially if you want to do any form of construction work, properly over to the master or into a different BP that will handle construction. We are going to use a construction manager PEP that simply just passes information and sets up the process by which construction will occur. So to do that, we're going to go into our folder here. Actually, surprised I'm in the correct folder. And we will do a new BP, which will be of an actor class. And this will be our actor class. This will be RTS building. Or let's just name it construction master BP. That way I don't actually get confused and open the wrong thing up again. All right, we don't need to worry about anything on this page. We're not even going to touch this. Let's go to our event graph, And in our event graph, we don't need anything. So as I said, we don't need anything. So we've deleted everything here. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new function, which will be start construction. Our start construction will take in our information on our construction structure. So this will be construction structure. And this will be of RTS Construction Struct. Before we go any further, however, we do need one variable that will not go into any blueprint. This is just so we can get that information passed along nicely. And this will be our controller reference. We will not cast to it. We will pass this by reference like we've done for our user displays and for our preview master. And this will be RTS player controller. Object reference, there we go. And of course, I just put this in the references folder just to be organized, even though we're not going to do much else with this blueprint. We're going to drag off of here and we're going to do a break. And there's all our lovely information. Well, we're going to drag off of this and then do a branch. We're not going to worry about the true branch for a bit. Anything that comes off there, we can handle later. What we are going to worry about is, in terms of construction, the false part. And we want it to do certain things. Well, we want it to do is, well, if it's false, we want this to spawn in a mesh. Very particular mesh, but we'll worry about that particular mesh in a moment. So spawn actor from class. And, well, hey, look, again, we have our class. We've passed it through. Oh, hey, just don't grab the entire thing like I tend to do. Plug that right into there. I'm just going to line that up so it's a little bit nicer. We have our transform, so we can just plug that in. We have our display mesh, and that's the only one I'm going to add a reroute into just so it looks a bit neater. And, well, now, this is the reason why I put the controller in. We now have that reference. We also need to expose this and make it exposed on spawn and plug that directly into there. There we go. And that actually takes care of putting it on the map yet again. So just going to compile, hit save, and now we are going to do one more thing. Because when we hit play, and, oh, sorry, actually, nothing's going to happen next. We haven't set this up. So we need to set this up still. Let's do that first before I can show you what we need to worry about. Go back to your player controller, and in your player controller, we need now to pass the structure information that we've created onto our manager. Well, to make our manager work, we need to go up to we need to make a reference to it. We need to spawn it in originally. We have nothing here. So to do that, we're just going to drag off of here. We're going to spawn in an actor. So this is going to be a persistent actor from class. We could spawn one every time we've done this, in which case then I would just use an interface instead. We are going to just pretty much copy what we have here. We have an empty transformation that we're going to plug in from our construction variables. Hello, empty transformation. Oh yeah, sorry, the class. That's going to be our RTS Construction Master. There we go. We need a controller reference, which is ourself. Now that passes that information in, so now that this has meaning. And now we can create a reference from this, and this will be our construction. Sorry, we can create a reference to this. This will be our construction master ref. This will be, of course, a references category. So if we go back down to our controller where we have our left click, we then grab our construction master reference, and we create a pull off of it, and we do start construction. There we go. We then just plug that into there, and then we are just going to set that structure there, pass a reroute node into there so it looks a bit neater and a bit more organized. And we also need to destroy the preview still, so we're going to plug that back in. There we go. Now we've destroyed the preview. We've set everything up. Let's test it, and we'll run into a small issue that might cause some problems if you want it to, not construct instantly. So we start the game. Here we go. Let's just make sure it doesn't, I can't spawn in on top of the tree there, but boom, and it's instantly constructed. So that's a bit of a problem. Now, while we don't have time to go over how to set up the construction time in this video, we can at least prepare for that, which will be in our next video. And what we're going to do is we are going to simply come in here, and we are, sorry, not into here, we're going to go into our building master. There we go. And we're going to do a couple of things. First things first, we are going to set it so that when it constructs, it doesn't give us the instant display mesh. So, easiest way to take care of that is by setting our, the easiest way to do that is by setting our meshes off a branch. And what we want to know on this branch is this building built or not? So the reason why we do that is you might want to put a building in at the start of the game. You don't want someone to actually construct it. It's already built. And so you want to set to is built. It has the mesh. Because the construction script occurs the second the particular actor is instantiated in the world, if you only have it set to the ghost mesh, then it's always going to be the ghost mesh at start. You can't substantiate a constructed building into the game already. So to handle this, we're going to create a new variable, which will be is built. And this is going to be confusing a little bit because we are going to have another variable with a similar sort of function a little bit later on. And by a little bit later on, I mean in the next video. And this will be a bool. And we're going to drag off of here. We're going to do a branch. So again, remember, this construction script runs the second this particular actor is put on the map, which is why we instantly get our meshes the second we're put on the map. So we want to is built, and then we're going to get our building mesh, get, and we are going to set material, and we're just going to drag into there, put a reroute in. And there we go. We are also going to highlight that and Control W to duplicate it and put it down here. And also plug it into the false. There we go. And what we're having in our true is, what we're going to have in our true is the built building, the correct one. We're just going to do, I'm just going to do wall basics. So it's that white material inside the gray one we currently have. And then in the false, I'm going to do my preview. Preview M instance, compile and save. Now I'm going to just go into here, grab my factory, and now it's a ghost mesh. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to unhook this for a second. I'm going to compile it again, and I'm going to drag it out, and you can see the gray mesh. Hey, there's that gray mesh. So this is what I mean by when it's instantiated in the world. The second it's created in the world, the second there's an instance of it, it is going to see this. It's going to run this branch, even in the editor, and go, this is defaulted to false. Therefore, I should have the preview mesh on there. So we drag that in. We got the ghost mesh. But hey, we didn't expose it, did we? Oh yeah, we need to do one thing with this. We need to expose this as being, we need to make it editable. We don't need to expose it. And yes, I said that word. I hate that word, as you guys know. And hey, boom, boom, boom. We can change it back and forth as needed. All right, so now let's test this. So we hit play. Grab our factory. Let's rotate it. Boom. Grab our training post. Rotate it. Boom. So we are able to spawn in and place our buildings to be constructed. Well, that takes care of a lot of the things we need to worry about. And next week, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our game time in relation to these buildings to get them to construct over time, just to make sure that we can get construction time to work correctly. And then following that, we will tie it so that our units have to be present at the building to construct it. And later on, we'll create specialty units that do construction. As you can see, they can't get into the buildings. They are still have their collision meshes, which is quite nice. And we'll tie it together. And then eventually we'll tie it to these resources as well, so you have to have the right resources to be able to construct. That said, if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have anything you want to see in this series, please go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.